Hello, football fans, and welcome back to the Corner Flag podcast. We are ready to go for season 2. And on today's episode of the warm-up, we sit down with former Matilda and TV personality Catherine Cannuli. We chat all things football and all things life. And Cath is not only a top athlete in her day, but is also passionate about grassroots football. It's constantly making strides for females in football. As always, make sure you like, follow, subscribe on Instagram, YouTube, Spotify, all those things. Make sure you pass the cast to your friends and family. So please sit back, relax, and enjoy the warm-up with Catherine Cannuli on the Corner Flag podcast. Welcome, Catherine Cannuli, former Matilda and TV personality. I've been lucky enough to know Cath for many, many years, and you will struggle to find someone as successful and passionate about football, especially grassroots football, as of recently, nor will you find a nicer person. So, Cath, thanks so much for coming on the pod. I'm really excited to tell your story.
Anytime, mate. I'm happy to be here.
So, we are kicking off today with the warm-up. If you are new to the pod, you can always track down season 1 episodes on YouTube and Spotify. But we do like to start with the warm-up so we can get to know our guest a little bit better. So I'm going to give Cath a quiz about herself and about football in general, and then I'm going to ask some rapid-fire questions which will cover a bit of everything. Keep you on your toes. You can feel free to go into as much depth as you like, or you can skip a question if you want, but I think you'll be fine. And hopefully, everyone gets to learn something about Catherine Cannuli.
I just want you to know I do have a terrible memory.
Okay, that's all right. We'll test it. I've got the answers here anyway. So
that's good.
If I've got any wrong, feel free to correct me as well. Okay. So you are my first female guest on the podcast, former Matilda, as I mentioned earlier, and I have done some digging. Bit difficult to find some of the information, but please correct me if I'm wrong. We're going to start off with how well Catherine Cannuli knows Catherine Cannuli. Number 1, what club did you debut with in the WNSL, I believe it was called?
The New South Wales Sapphires.
Very good. And what year did you debut?
Oh, now you're testing me. 2000.
Very good. You're on fire. 2 from 2. What season did you guys win the WNSL?
Ooh. 2001.
I've got 2003.
Oh, maybe.
But we might just go back and fact check. We'll dive in.
We'll have to fact check that one.
We will. And you won a golden boot. Do you know what season?
Was it 2003?
It was. It says 03-04, but yes, that was exactly it. So you stepped away from football for a little bit in 2004. What club did you make a return with?
I returned in the W League back then with Sydney FC.
Yep.
But in the NPL, actually, I made a return through Inter Lions.
You did. Was there a reason Inter Lions or?
To be honest, there was a gentleman there called Joe that ran the club. And at the time I was working in a retail store in Auburn, and this guy just turned up at my work one day, and he turned up and kept asking me to come back and play. Some of the girls must have told him where I worked, and he was an absolute pest and wouldn't leave me alone. I'm like, look, I don't want to play. I've decided to give it away. I've gone through a different path. And then one day I just sort of gave in. I said, mate, if you buy me a pair of boots, I love a Copa Mundial, 5.5 size US. If you buy me a pair of boots, I'll come down and have a kick. Sure enough, the next day he comes down with a pair of brand new Copas, and I'm a person of my word, as you know, and I ended up down at Concord having a kick around, and that's where it sort of all kicked off again. And again, if I didn't put the boots back on that day, I probably would never have got a proper cap for the Matildas, because when I was playing and going into Matildas camps and we were playing games in Canberra, it wasn't obviously as popular as it is today, and we didn't have proper international games. We would play a lot of trial games against, Canberra men's teams or state teams. So it was a very unique time in the women's football space.
Mm-hmm. So to get you back out of retirement, another pair of Copa Mundials, we're done?
Absolutely.
Yeah, done. All right. Well, if anyone's watching out there wants Catherine Cannuli to line up, you know what it takes. So W League started, as you mentioned, Sydney FC. That was your first stint in the W League, is that right?
Yes.
Where did you head to from there?
I played 2 seasons with Sydney FC, and then I wasn't getting the game time that I wanted. And once you go back to football, you sort of get a bit of an itch for it. And I had a good chat with Alan Stajic, and he just said, look, I can't guarantee you any game time here. So I thought, what am I going to do? And Brisbane had reached out at the time, and I thought it'll be a good move, something different, away from Sydney, really just take time to concentrate on my football. So I moved to Brisbane, and I just concentrated on my football there, and I had a season there. And once I was there, playing during the season, that was the time that the Wanderers was being talked about. So I only spent 1 season there before I came back to the Western Sydney Wanderers.
Yeah, and we'll dive into your career a little bit later. But yes, this is like, do you know how many games you played for Brisbane?
Well, we made it all the way to the finals, so I'm guessing we would have played about 14.
I've got 11 here, but I don't know if that includes finals. So maybe you're away there. But obviously a much smaller comp.
It was.
Than what it is now, and we'll talk about some of those differences later as well. So after Brisbane, you moved on to
the Western Sydney Wanderers. That's
Yep.
when I got a phone call saying, hey, we're looking at building this club in the West. It's about to be formed. We're going to get the colours and the name and everything's getting sorted. Are you interested in being part of building the women's team? And I was like, absolutely. Like,
yeah,
you know, I'm a Western Sydney girl. I've grown up in the area, and it means a lot to me. So when I had that phone call, it was a no-brainer to move back home and be part of the Western Sydney Wanderers.
Do you know how many games you played?
I would have played easy 30 games.
Well, this is Wikipedia, so I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll edit it. But I've got 22 here.
Okay.
Do you know how many goals you scored?
For just the Wanderers?
Yeah, just the Wanderers.
Would have been maybe 15.
It's got 7 here, so maybe we need to talk to someone.
Yeah, I think we've got to talk to someone.
We've got to have a chat.
That was one season, definitely I scored 7.
Maybe, and Sydney FC weren't on there either. So I think we've got to, people out there in the, the world of Wikipedia, go fix that up for Cath, please. Who was your final game against?
My final game was against Sydney FC.
Very good. In that game, you scored a penalty.
Yes.
Do you remember where you put it?
I'm guessing I would have put it bottom right-hand corner.
That's pretty spot on. So from the camera angle, because I went and watched it on YouTube, the camera angle, it wasn't right in the corner.
Yeah.
So I'm going to criticise your technique a little bit. No,
Yeah.
but it was like straightish, but bottom right.
Yeah.
Yeah, keep went the wrong way.
That's generally the way I go.
I was going to ask, is that your safety spot?
It is,
Yeah?
definitely.
Fair enough. So when did you debut for the Matildas?
Oh, now you're testing me. Pretty sure it was 2011.
It was 12th of May, 2011. Do you know where it was?
Central Coast.
Yep. Blue Tongue Stadium against?
New Zealand.
Very good. How many appearances did you make for the Matildas?
3, I think, on paper. Like proper caps.
I think Wikipedia's helping you now. It's got 4 here.
Maybe
so
4.
there you go.
Okay, there you go.
Don't change that one, guys. We'll leave the extra caps. And your first goal for the Matildas? Do you know who it was against?
Against New Zealand as well, that same game.
Oh, it says here.
Or the second game?
Yeah, 15.
Second
so
game.
3 days later.
Okay.
Was that a normal thing you do? You play the same team twice in a couple of days?
It was a series that goes over a week. So you generally invite them out for a couple of games, and you'll play one, then have a bit of a break, and then play another.
Fair enough. Well, that's the quiz. You can relax now. That's the quiz.
Thank
now
God.
The rest of it you can make up as you go.
Good.
There's no fact checking.
Awesome.
So these are going to come rapid fire. Like I said, as much detail or as little detail as you want. Okay. First, I'm going to test, I suppose, how European you are. Pineapple on pizza, yes or no?
No.
I could have picked that one, I'm sure. Who was your junior club?
Marconi Stallions.
And what was Catherine Cannuli, the school student, like?
Very cheeky.
Yeah. Were you an academic?
No.
No. Did you enjoy school?
I love school
Yeah.
purely because we got to play football at lunchtime,
Yep.
and also that I went to a football school. But love school, love the friendships, love that we had that camaraderie, but most of the time was all about football and not about the classroom.
Of course. And were you one where, mum or dad asked, what'd you do at school today? And I scored 3 goals at lunch. Like that was the chat?
Nah, my parents are very, very old school, you know, so it was all about football really. It was all about, talking about football on the weekend or about what games were on and what scores, and it wasn't much about school.
Fair enough. Who were your football idols growing up?
Probably the main one was Roberto Baggio. Obviously growing up in an Italian household, parents are families sick for football.
Yeah.
I'd get up in the middle of the night and watch the Italian national team. Never knew who the Socceroos were or the Matildas back then. And then as I started to get a bit older, obviously watching a little bit of women's football. Another one was Mia Hamm as well. Obviously the Americans were so strong back in those days. And, yeah, definitely Mia Hamm in the women's space. But a lot of Italian footballers, Baggio, Del Piero, probably two of the main ones.
Yeah, you didn't get a choice, did you? Just had to.
When you're watching them, week in, week out playing, you're watching the Italian national team, that's who you're following. And, it's what you get brought up with in the household. And you watch them, and it's funny because you look back now in your career and you look back at things that you'd done as a footballer, and it was only, and this is going to sound really funny, I was watching some old school DVDs with my nephews that I'd sort of had put aside, and I was watching some highlights of Del Piero, and I seen a couple of goals that he scored, and I was like, wow, now I know where I got that from. It was a certain one where it comes across the face of the goal and you sort of flick it from underneath your legs and you score, and you're trying to do that. And it's like you don't know sometimes how you got to do that, but it's by watching and seeing. And I'm a big believer is you can't be what you can't see. So, you want to sort of replicate what your idols are actually doing.
Yeah, and there's a lot of chat about that now, that in the world we're at now with YouTube and everything and Reels and TikTok and whatever, that people aren't watching whole games anymore. They're just watching those highlights, and it's not the same, for overall play. And these kids, and they're developing, like you said, you can only be what you can see. So, people are starting to move away from watching full games, and it's a bit of a shame because there's so much that you miss, and you would know being at a game live is completely different to watching it on TV. So it is interesting, and obviously you watched a lot of football growing up, and to see that impact, I suppose, on your career is pretty interesting as well. So thanks for sharing that. Did you ever have any superstitions when you were playing?
Probably only one thing. I used to love playing with gum in my mouth. I don't know why. I don't know if it was like a nervous thing, but I'd always have to put a piece of chewing gum in my mouth before I'd play. And it's still today, if I go out on a futsal court or go play five-a-side or whatever it is, it's just a piece of chewy in the mouth. And maybe it's just to calm the nerves, but that was probably the only one.
We'll add that to the sign-on fee. Copper Monday hours, packet extra.
That's it, done.
Locked in, all right. Did you have a pre-match routine at all? Like, was there anything, I suppose, game day, certain meal, whatever, or, even getting ready, prepared, anything like that?
Probably the night before. I would always make sure that I don't have a massive plate of pasta, just to make sure that I'm obviously carb loading and getting ready for the game. Game day is always different depending on what time you actually play, whether you're away with a team, that always changes. But definitely always the night before was a big plate of pasta cooked by my amazing mother.
Yeah, lovely. And what was the go-to? Was it the same every week?
Yeah, absolutely. Always pasta.
Yeah.
Red sauce pasta.
Done. Lock it in. And she's stewing over that red sauce all day, or?
Absolutely. It doesn't get better than my mum's pasta sauce.
How good is that? So, contentious one. I ask everybody this one. VAR, keep it or sack it?
Sack it.
Yep.
Hate it.
Straight away, bang.
Hate it.
Yep.
Sack it.
Yep.
I don't know if you heard me on the Optus coverage of the Women's World Cup, but couldn't stand it. Absolutely. I think it's ruining the game. Goal line technology, I wouldn't mind, so we can see whether the ball goes. But VAR, I just think it's taking out that natural feel of the game.
Yeah, and I think it's killing defenders as well. Like, the art of defending is just, it's disappearing because people feel like I can't make a challenge anymore.
Absolutely.
So,
everything's being watched, and it's taken away just that normal feeling of football. You don't want to take it away. You don't want to make it so, clinical, where little bits and pieces are just getting picked up on, like, by a hair you're offside. You have to have that sort of feel for it. Yeah,
and I think if they were getting it right every time, you could maybe justify it a little bit and go, you know what, at least we're getting the right result. And there's obviously a lot of money involved, but yeah, it's a no from me as well. So I'm glad you're on my team. Who do you support in football?
I'm a Juventus supporter and Manchester United. Obviously, growing up in the 90s era of David Beckham's and Ryan Giggs, and they're obviously so successful back then. So it's a little bit tough being a Manchester United supporter these days, but definitely a Juventus. Obviously, growing up in that Italian household and watching a lot of football back in those days.
Yeah, lovely. And Messi or Ronaldo?
I hate this question.
I feel like you get it everywhere you go.
All the time.
Yeah.
I actually love them both.
Yeah.
I can't pick them. I think they both have so many great qualities as footballers, and they're just so different in their own ways. So I can't really pick one. I love them both.
Okay. And who do you think's next? Who do you think's going to take over?
These days, there's just so much talent out there. There is just players that are coming from absolutely everywhere with so many different qualities. You can't really say, oh, this person's going to be the next Messi or Ronaldo, because now we're talking about back in the day we had Pele, we had Maradona. There's going to be so many of them. Really, I can't really choose.
Yeah, I'm excited. I think it makes things like the Ballon d'Or a lot more exciting because it got to the point where we were like, one of them's going to get it. So now it opens the door for a lot of, and there's so many young kids coming through.
It does.
I think it'd be super interesting. So, can you tell me what your first car was?
Oh. It was I think it was a CRX.
Yeah.
Pretty sure it was a CRX.
Okay.
Yeah.
Not rocking that anymore.
No, definitely not. I can't put the baby seats in a CRX.
And where did you get that? Because like a lot of the stories we hear is, it was my nonna's car or my grandfather's car or whatever. Or
it wasn't actually. I'm actually quite blessed to have two older brothers, and obviously being the younger sister of two older brothers, it's sort of like, what do you want? So I was sort of looking for a coolish car, and my brothers actually bought it for me. So I was quite lucky.
How good.
Yeah.
Lucky you. Do you have any fears?
Probably now a lot more than before. Obviously being a mother now and having two kids, and every time I jump on a plane or whatever it is, like I've done skydiving and I couldn't even think of doing anything like that anymore. But
yeah,
I think anything that's got to do with, there's a slight possibility as a mother now is always tough, but no serious fears. But every time you get, on a plane or you do something spontaneous like that, it sort of gives you that bit of that feeling inside.
Yeah. Parenthood puts a bit of a different context on a lot of those things. If I was to ask you for your Mount Rushmore of football, so sort of 3 or 4 that you'll put up there on a pedestal different to anyone else, are there any other real standouts for you?
For myself?
Like who, I suppose your sort of top 4 guys you really admired, or females, like you said, Mia Hamm, those sorts of people. Is there any, I suppose, if you had to put 4 up there, would there be any that stand out?
Yeah, look, I think we've got the likes of Del Piero. He's probably one that I could probably resonate a little bit more. Obviously, Bajor's a lot younger. Del Piero, I've seen a lot of his career. I also got to meet him when he was here playing for Sydney.
I was going to
FC
ask that if you got the chance.
To, chat with him and talk football with him, which was pretty awesome. Mia Hamm is another one. Probably someone else that sort of I hold up there as always is Julie Murray. She played for the Matildas. Someone that I really looked up to as a young kid, and being able to communicate and talk with them on a personal level is always a lot different as well. But probably those 3 really are the ones that are the real standouts.
Yeah, interesting. What are you binging at the moment?
To be honest, I don't get to watch much TV, honestly.
Podcast, I know you obviously listen to the Corner Flag all the time, but any podcasts or movies, anything that...
Other than the corner Flag, I don't really listen to many podcasts. But to be honest, I'm a bit embarrassed to say this. It's a lot of kids shows.
Yeah. Well, tell me, what are you watching? Because I reckon I've got
we're watching Rara, the Noisy Lion at the moment.
Okay, I haven't experienced that one.
That's actually it's on YouTube. It's actually not a bad show.
How old are your kids? Sorry,
I got Alessio, he's 4, and Mateo's 18 months.
Okay, yeah.
So they keep me on my toes. We've got a lot of Coco Melon.
Yeah,
bit of that going on.
Yeah.
Super simple.
And does that stuff just ring in your head as you're at work and whatever? Because
absolutely.
Right, I am singing. Yeah, Alfie's got his own playlist on Spotify, my Spotify, and he just wants his songs. Yeah. And I get out of the car and I'm singing them at the shops, and it's embarrassing. But
it is quite embarrassing. But I am trying to start to get Alessio into a bit of football in the mornings, a bit of highlights. It was great when the World Cup was on. You just turn the TV on, the Euros, watch all the highlights, go through the goals with them. So it's good to start to share that passion together as well.
Yeah, it is nice seeing that grow. So what would your most used app in your phone be?
probably Team App.
What's Team App?
Team App is
Team App. Sorry,
an app that we use to communicate with all our teams. Obviously, looking after so many teams in the Southern Districts Football Association. It'd probably be either Team App and probably Instagram, to be honest.
Yep, good. And if I went through I'm not going to go through your phones, okay? But if I went through your contacts, and this is a youngster's term, who would the biggest flex be?
Flex.
So do you know what that means?
Is that like the coolest person?
Yeah,
in my
like
phone?
What if you had to show someone how cool you were or whatever? Whose number in there, or even Instagram follower or something like that?
Yeah. Well, probably at the moment, it'd probably have to be someone like Alana Kennedy, Caitlin Ford, Kyra Cooney Cross, any of those girls that have got
Take
the
your
numbers.
pick.
It was funny actually. About 3-4 weeks ago, I was out at a pub down in Wollongong, and these kids were having a kick around, and I jumped in. I was having a bit of a kick around with them, and I was like, "Oh, do you play football? Yeah, we do. Do you know the Matildas? Yeah, I know the Matildas. Who's your favourite player?" And she goes, Kyra Cooney Cross. I'm like, "Oh, man." I said, "I'm going to FaceTime her now." So jump on the phone, FaceTime her. And, of course, Kizza doesn't pick up.
Yeah.
So I messaged her the next day. I'm like, "Kizza, you full dogged me." I was trying to tell these kids that I knew you, but you didn't even answer. So then they probably didn't even believe me, these kids I was kicking in the pub in the backyard with. And it was crazy. She goes, "I knew you were calling me because you were with some kids that you were going to say that you were going to make me talk to them." And it's funny. But, look, these days it's just unbelievable.
Yeah.
The hype of the Matildas and how many kids, boys and girls, you just mentioned football and Matildas. It's just such a massive brand now. And to see where it's come, for me, it's just such an amazing story to see. Yeah.
And you would have seen, obviously, that, and we'll go into it later, that transition from, I suppose, amateur level and semi-professional into what is now, like you said, it's just such a big beast at the moment.
Absolutely. Begging people to come and watch the games, giving tickets away. And now when the Matilda's playing, everybody's ringing and asking, "Can you get tickets?" They're sellouts. It's just phenomenal.
Yeah, it's very good. Favourite kit number?
13.
Is there a reason why?
13 is lucky for Italians. My nonno always wore like a number 13 on his chain, and it's a lucky number in for Italians.
So most other cultures is the exact opposite.
I know, it's crazy.
Yeah. Oh, well, very interesting. Who would you say, and this can be hard, but who would you say is your best mate in football? So who you're probably close to, or it could be a couple of people, I suppose, but who have you met at any point that you're really tight with?
Probably one of my tightest friends in football is Julia Barzi. She played in the youth national teams with me. We went to school together. We first met at primary school state championships. We've got a photo of us two at the airport. It's a bit of a funny photo of us two little dorks there in our full New South Wales kit, about to go away for PWSA state, which is pretty cool. And again, we're a lot older now, and Julia went on a different path. She's down in college in America and went to college, and now is a coach in the college system as well. So it's funny that we both took that coaching pathway. Yeah. But probably Julia Barzi's someone that I've played with and still kept in contact, and we've still got a really tight relationship.
Very nice. What do you miss most about playing football?
Probably the change room.
Yeah.
To be honest, I love just having those teammates rocking up to training, having a chat, getting on the pitch and being competitive, and being around like-minded people that have the same goals and the same mentality. That's probably the biggest thing that I miss. And
last one from our rapid fire. If you could be an Olympian in any sport other than football, what would you do? And this is irregardless of your ability, physique, whatever. If you could pick one of those sports, what would you pick?
I'd probably be a high jumper.
Yeah?
I just love watching the athletics. I love, and I used to love doing high jump at school.
Were you good at high jump?
I actually was. I was actually not too bad at school. Done it a lot in primary school, not obviously in high school. Going to a sports high school, everything was about football, but in primary school, absolutely loved it.
Yeah. I don't know if I could see it. I've got to grow. I was the same. I in primary school, all right. Then everyone just shot up and I stayed down. They were jumping over me by the end.
I loved it. It was cool.
Lovely. Well, thanks, Cath. I hope everyone at home enjoys sort of getting to know you a little bit better. And I make sure, I'm sure they'll really enjoy it. Thanks for coming on the warm up. So that's the first segment of our little chat done. And everyone at home, please make sure, obviously, that you're following, liking, subscribing on Instagram and YouTube and Spotify and doing all those things. Make sure you pass the cast with your family as well, and keep your eyes peeled for the home leg with Catherine Cannuli, which will be coming up shortly. So please, thank you always for choosing to score some goals with us, and remember to celebrate with the corner flag.